It was supposed to be a quick detour, a scenic route through the countryside, but what we stumbled upon changed our lives forever. We had no idea that a forgotten village, hidden from maps and memories, would hold secrets darker than any nightmare. You see, some places are forgotten for a reason. Have you ever wondered what it feels like to discover something that should have remained buried? As we drove deeper into the wilderness, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an eerie twilight over the deserted road. My friends, Sarah, Matt, and I, were eager to explore. We were heading to an old hiking trail we read about online. Little did we know the directions we followed would lead us somewhere far more sinister. The GPS started glitching, and the once well-paved road turned to dirt. "This doesn't look right," Sarah said, peering out the window at the thickening woods. I shrugged. "We'll find our way." We were about to turn back when we saw it, a dim light flickering through the trees. "Is that a village?" Matt asked, squinting into the darkness. Curiosity got the better of us. We pulled over and walked towards the light, hoping to find someone who could give us directions. As we stepped closer, we noticed something odd. There were no sounds, no birds, no wind, just the crunch of our footsteps. Before us stood an old, forgotten village. The houses looked abandoned, their wood rotting, yet the flickering light continued to shine from a house at the far end. Against our better judgment, we decided to explore. Approaching the house with the light, we hesitated. The door was slightly ajar, and a low humming sound came from inside. Matt was the first to step in, his flashlight illuminating the dust-covered floor. "Hello?" he called out, but no one answered. The house seemed frozen in time. Old photos hung on the walls, showing smiling families from another era. But there was something wrong. Every photo had the eyes scratched out. "What the hell happened here?" Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. As we explored further, we noticed a strange symbol carved into the wooden floor, almost like a circle, with intricate patterns weaving through it. I felt an odd chill as I stared at it. Suddenly, the humming grew louder, and the lights in the house flickered. Sarah screamed, pointing to the far corner. A shadow moved. We all froze, staring at the dark figure that seemed to materialize out of nowhere. It was tall, with a twisted, unnatural shape. The shadow glided towards us, and as it moved closer, the humming became unbearable. "Run!" Matt shouted, but the door slammed shut before we could reach it. Panic set in. We banged on the door, trying to force it open, but it wouldn't budge. The shadow moved closer, its presence suffocating. My mind raced as I tried to think of a way out. That's when Sarah noticed something. The symbol on the floor was glowing faintly. It's some kind of trap," she whispered. "We triggered it." Suddenly, a voice echoed through the room, raspy and ancient. "You shouldn't have come here." As the voice faded, the room grew colder. I noticed an old book lying on the table, its pages yellowed with age. With trembling hands, I picked it up. The title read, "The Cursed Village, a Forgotten Legacy." Flipping through the pages, we found handwritten notes, stories of strange disappearances, hauntings, and rituals performed by the village's inhabitants. One passage caught my eye. "Those who enter shall never leave, for the spirits of the forgotten will claim their due. There is no escape from the village once you've been marked." And that's when I realized we had been marked the moment we stepped foot in the village. What would you do if you found yourself trapped in a village where every escape route leads you deeper into its curse? Would you try to run, or would you face the shadows head on? Let me know in the comments. Have you ever experienced something unexplainable like this? With no way out, and the shadow getting closer, we had no choice but to confront the symbols on the floor. Sarah knelt down, tracing the patterns with her fingers. "This is some kind of ritual," she muttered. "We need to break it." But how? The book didn't provide any clear answers, only warnings. I could feel the air grow thick as the shadow moved closer, its form twisting and warping. I grabbed the book and began reading the words aloud, hoping they held some kind of power. The shadow stopped. For a brief moment I thought we had won, but then the floor beneath us began to crack, and a deep, unnatural laugh filled the room. The floor gave way, and we fell into darkness. I don't know how long we were unconscious, but when I opened my eyes, we were no longer in the house. We were outside, standing in the middle of the village square. The houses around us were decaying, and strange symbols covered every surface. The village was alive. Suddenly, a figure appeared in the distance, a woman, dressed in old-fashioned clothes, her face hidden by a veil. She pointed at us, and the ground began to tremble. "What do you think the woman in the veil wants from us? Do you believe we can escape this cursed village? Or are we doomed to be its next victims? Let me know your thoughts below, and stay tuned as we try to uncover the truth behind this haunted place." The woman in the veil stood still, her presence unsettling. There was something ancient about her, something not quite human. As we hesitated, trying to decide whether to approach her or run, she slowly lifted her arm and pointed towards the village's center. "We need to follow her," Matt whispered, though fear was etched across his face. I didn't trust her. Every instinct screamed to run in the opposite direction, but there was something about her, almost like she was trying to communicate with us. She started walking away, her steps eerily silent on the cracked ground. We had no choice but to follow. She led us to the heart of the village, to an old overgrown cemetery hidden behind crumbling stone walls. The graves were ancient, the names worn away by time. The woman stopped at a large tomb, its stone door slightly ajar, and without a word, she disappeared inside. "Are we seriously going in there?" Sarah asked, her voice shaky. "We don't have a choice," I replied. "Whatever's happening to us, it started here. Maybe this is where we'll find the answers." The three of us stepped inside, the air heavy with the scent of earth and decay. Inside the tomb, it was darker than night. Our flashlights barely penetrated the thick shadows that clung to the walls. The walls were lined with strange carvings, symbols similar to those we'd seen in the house. At the far end of the room stood a large stone altar covered in dust. Something glinted on its surface, a small, ancient key. "This must open something important," Matt said, as he grabbed the key. But the moment his fingers touched it, the ground beneath us began to shake. The tomb's entrance slammed shut, trapping us inside. The rumbling grew louder, and from the shadows we saw it, the same twisted figure we had seen in the house. But this time, it wasn't just a shadow. It was solid, its eyes glowing with an unnatural light as it lurked closer. It seemed to be guarding something it didn't want us to find. "We need to move now," I shouted, dragging Sarah and Matt deeper into the tomb. There was another passageway behind the altar, hidden by rubble, but we managed to squeeze through just as the creature lunged at us. We stumbled through the narrow passage, the air thick and suffocating. The creature was right behind us, its growls echoing off the stone walls. Every turn seemed to lead us deeper into a maze of tunnels beneath the village. Panic set in as we realized we had no idea where we were going, or if there was even a way out. Suddenly, we found ourselves in another chamber, larger than the last. In the center stood a statue, a woman, eerily resembling the one we had followed, her arms outstretched as if offering something. At her feet was a chest, its lock rusted with age. Matt quickly pulled out the key. This has to be it. With trembling hands, Matt inserted the key into the lock. The moment the chest opened, a gust of cold air rushed out, and a strange light began to fill the room. Inside was an old scroll, sealed with wax, and a small silver dagger. There were inscriptions on the dagger's blade, the same symbols we'd seen throughout the village. "What does it say?" Sarah asked, her eyes wide. "I don't know," I replied, examining the scroll. "But I think this is what the creature is after. Do you think this scroll holds the key to our escape? Or is it just another trap? What would you do if you found yourself holding something so powerful, yet so dangerous? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. We need all the help we can get." As we debated what to do next, the creature appeared again, this time faster and more aggressive. We didn't have much time. Matt, holding the dagger, instinctively slashed at the air in front of the creature, and to our surprise, it recoiled, screeching in agony. "It's scared of the dagger," Sarah said, her voice filled with relief. But as we celebrated this small victory, the ground beneath the statue began to crack, and a low, ominous voice filled the room. The symbols on the walls began to glow, and I realized too late. We had just awakened something far worse. The statue's stone face crumbled, revealing a twisted, skeletal figure beneath. This was no ordinary spirit. It was the source of the village's curse, the entity that had trapped its inhabitants in an endless cycle of torment. The creature we had been running from was merely its servant. "We need to destroy the scroll," I said, my voice trembling. "It's the only way." But as I reached for the scroll, the room erupted in chaos. The creature lunged at us again, the walls shaking as if the entire village was coming to life. We had two choices: use the scroll to end the curse or destroy it, and risk unleashing something even worse. Matt wanted to keep the scroll, convinced it held the answers to controlling the entity. Sarah, on the other hand, believed it was too dangerous. "What if we destroy it, and it's the only way out?" I asked, torn between their arguments. Before we could make a decision, the entity roared, and the ground beneath us gave way. We tumbled into the darkness once more, this time deeper into the heart of the village's ancient curse. What would you do in our place? Keep the scroll and risk the consequences, or destroy it and hope for the best? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Your answers could be the key to helping us survive. We fell for what seemed like an eternity, landing in a massive cavern. The air was thick with dust, and the only light came from the glowing symbols on the walls, pulsing like a heartbeat. We were in the heart of the curse, the source of the village's nightmare. "We have to decide now," Matt said, clutching the scroll tightly. "There's no turning back." But before we could make a move, the entity appeared, larger and more menacing than ever. Its twisted form slithered across the room, its eyes locked on the scroll in Matt's hands. "Do it!" Sarah screamed, backing away from the creature. "Destroy the scroll!" But Matt hesitated. What if this is the only way to stop it? Time was running out, and the creature was getting closer. I grabbed the dagger, my hands shaking, and looked between Matt and Sarah. The entity let out a deafening screech, and suddenly it lunged towards us. "Now!" I yelled, thrusting the dagger into the scroll. The moment the dagger pierced the scroll, everything around us exploded in a blinding light. The cavern shook violently, the walls crumbling as the symbols faded into darkness. The entity let out a final ear-piercing shriek before it dissolved into dust, leaving nothing but silence in its wake. For a moment we stood there, unsure of what had just happened. The village had gone still, the oppressive atmosphere lifting as if the curse had been broken. But something still felt wrong. We made our way back to the surface, the village now eerily quiet. The once threatening fog had lifted, revealing the ruins of what was left of the cursed town. The weight of what we had done began to sink in. Had we truly broken the curse, or had we unleashed something far worse? As we reached the village's edge, the sun began to rise. For the first time since arriving, we felt a sense of peace. But just as we turned to leave, we heard it. A whisper, faint but unmistakable, carried on the wind. Come back. We stopped dead in our tracks, exchanging nervous glances. It couldn't be. The curse was supposed to be over, right? Suddenly, Matt gasped. "Guys, look!" On the ground, where the scroll had been destroyed, a new symbol had appeared. It was glowing faintly, pulsing with the same ominous energy we had encountered before. "No," I whispered, realizing the truth. "It's not over. Do you think we truly ended the curse? Or did we just unleash something even more dangerous? What would you have done differently? Let us know in the comments below. This might not be the last you hear of this story." The story ends with the realization that while the immediate threat had been dealt with, a new, darker force had been awakened. The village may be at peace for now, but the pulse of ancient magic still lingers, waiting for its next victim.